So some districts are doing a really good job implementing kids' IEPs, and many districts are not doing a very good job implementing IEPs. Most of the parents I've talked to, they're saying that their district is not doing a very good job implementing their child's IEP. So for me personally, we're in the district where I provide services as an advocate to my clients. They are not doing a very good job. They're still figuring out how they're going to do it, what they're going to do, how they're going to provide virtual learning, whether the teachers are going to actually get on a virtual site and actually provide academic instruction to kids. Because if IDEA is in effect and districts are mandated and obligated to provide IDEA and continue to implement the IEP, then that would be required, that teachers would be getting on virtual technology and providing instruction to kids, academic instruction to kids. And when you think about individualized services, right, because our kids, all of the IEPs are individualized to meet their individual unique needs, how is providing a list of websites and enrichment activities to do individualized? It is not. So the districts that were already set up with strong technology department and already had kids using technology and on devices, already had teachers very well trained in technology and used to teaching through technology, those are the districts that are doing well right now, because the transition, they were easily just moved on into, okay, now we're virtual, we already have it in place, so now this is how we provide our education. The districts that didn't have strong technology departments are the ones that are floundering and trying to put it together, trying to get all the kids a piece of technology or a device of some kind, trying to quickly train teachers and give teacher development on online teaching and learning for the distance learning plans. So those are the districts that are having issues. So right now, as it stands, every child should have some kind of piece of technology if they don't have access to something at home. So if your child should have a piece of technology provided by the district, and the districts, if you don't have internet access, then the districts are supposed to be providing parents with internet access by a hotspot, or paying for a hotspot for you, or giving you their hotspot number or something they're supposed to be doing to provide you with internet access if you don't have it, okay? And then in terms of grades, so for grades, they are not going to lower any student's grade. They're going to either remain the same grade that they were when this all happened. They're going to remain the same at the same grade level, or they're going to increase. So if kids choose to turn in during this time, then the grades could go up. If the child doesn't turn anything in and doesn't earn extra credit, then the grades cannot go down. So all grades remain the same. They can't go down whether the child does work or doesn't do work, but the grades can go up. So that's what they're doing with grades. Now, this is, kind of questionable, because what does that, kind of tell teachers? It tells teachers, well, then teachers aren't really responsible for kids learning, right? If grades can stay the same, whether the child does work or doesn't do work, then how is the teacher held accountable to actually that child learning? So then you question, well, then how is my IEP being implemented with fidelity if my child isn't, if the teacher isn't responsible for my child to make progress or learn? So this is the, controversy, and the two, different stories coming in where Secretary DeVos is saying, oh yes, districts are responsible to implement the IEP and IDEA. And on the other hand, oh, but we have to take into consideration that we're doing distance learning and this is unprecedented and we're trying to figure it out. And we have to take in consideration the health and safety of the kids because of the COVID virus. Well, of course, we got to do that. Of course, that comes first. Virtual teaching isn't going to, have someone catch COVID. So I don't know, but that's the wiggle room. That's the wiggle room that she's giving. So the next thing is that, so you should be expecting your IEP to be implemented. So I don't know any mom that's going to tell me my kid's IEP is implemented, just like it was implemented during the school year. So I'm going to mute whoever that is.
Yeah, there's a lot of background noise. It's really.
Can we mute you, Jennifer? Is it you?
Yeah. Yep. Sorry, my daughter.
That's okay. Let's see here. Do you know? Oh, thanks, Jennifer. Thanks. Okay, there. So, where was I? Oh, you should expect your IEP to be implemented, except for the assessments, okay? That's the only thing that's not to be implemented. Other than that, your IEP should be implemented because IDA has not been waived. Nothing has been changed in terms of IDA, except for that wiggle room that the secretary put in place. And that's gonna have to get all figured out when we come back and school's back in. We'll have to figure out how that all pans out. But right now, they're held accountable to implementing IDEA. If you are not receiving services, then I recommend to all parents to write an email to your case carrier saying, I'm not receiving my services that are identified in my IEP, okay? If you're not receiving an individualized IEP, you need to put it in writing and send it because you're starting to develop a paper trail that would provide evidence for when you go back to school, you have evidence to ask for comp ed or comp services, okay? So you need to start your paper trail of evidence. If you decide that you want to go outside and just pay for services because you're not getting services and so you're going to pay for services, before you do that, you need to absolutely send a letter. This is the law. If you want to get reimbursed, you have to send a letter notifying them that I plan to fund my own child services because they're not receiving because the district is not providing my services for my kid. I don't want them to regress, so I'm paying for services and I'm going to be asking for reimbursement. And my services are going to begin on such and such a date. Then you've done your due diligence, and when you go back, you have the right to ask for that to be reimbursed because you went and paid for it on your own, okay? Be very careful if not to sign anything right now, okay? I've heard a lot of parents tell me they're sending me these waivers to sign. They're sending me an IEP to sign because they're saying that, now we're providing distance learning plans, DLP, distance learning plans. There's a new acronym for us now, you guys, distance learning plan. That's another one to add to the list. So because they're providing distance learning plans, that is really a change of placement, right? Because the service model delivery has changed to virtual and now kids are in the home and not at school. So some districts are requiring that to be a change of placement. Other districts haven't said a word about it. But my message to you is to be careful if they send you an IEP and say, here, we need you to sign this because it's a change of placement. And if you want to get your virtual learning plan implemented, you need to sign this IEP. Be very careful that you're not signing away, allowing them to decrease your services or decrease any obligations in terms of them implementing your IEP. So I'd be very careful of signing anything at this time. Also, they're actually sending out waivers in some districts saying, we feel that our responsibility should be waived at this time because it's not possible to implement the IEP with fidelity individually as usual, and parents are just signing it because they're not looking at what they're signing. So be extremely careful with anything that you sign. And you know, if they do say that, it is really true that this distance learning plan is really a change of placement. So they do have a point there. They really do. So if it says, you know, in order for you to get it, you need to sign this, then okay, that's okay, because it is a change of placement, but just make sure that it says exactly what you already have, that they don't change anything in terms of your services or your IEP. That it's only that, okay, we're getting virtual services now. It's a change of placement, and that's all it says. And it doesn't change anything else in your IEP. Because the law is that within 10 days, if a child's placement is changed more than 10 days, they have to change it in the IEP. And it's been more than 10 days now. Okay, so be aware of that, if that might happen, because it's a departure from the direct services to virtual learning. And it's a different service delivery model. So some districts are not even holding IEP meetings, and then some districts are wanting to hold IEP meetings. So it makes no sense. So where the district that I have my clients in, they're not doing anything. They're not holding IEP meetings. They're not providing actual academic instruction by teachers teaching virtually. They're not providing that. They're only giving these websites and suggestions and links for parents to go to choose what they'd like to choose from to teach their child. That's what they're doing. So like I said, the IEP requires individual instruction. So they're falling short there. And they should be providing, by now, you should be receiving your related services, at least speech and language. Speech and language can easily be provided virtually by your speech pathologist to your child online. There's no reason why they can't do that. And if they're not doing it, I highly suggest that you start writing down every single service that is being missed, because you need to keep a log and a record so that when you go back, you have here are how many times that my child did not receive their related services. Now, occupational therapy, that's going to be a little more difficult to provide virtually, but I do know some occupational therapists are checking in with parents, giving them suggestions, telling them things they can work on at home with the child. So you should still be hearing from your service provider, but speech should be being implemented. Now, so if they are still obligated to hold the annual IEP. If your annual is due, they're obligated to hold your annual before the due date, just as if we were in school. So if your annual's coming up and they haven't asked you, then they're going to be violating the timeline for the annual. It hasn't been waived. So I don't know what these districts are thinking by just letting it go and not doing it, because they're going to be held liable for it. So now you have to look at this in two different ways. So some parents want to have an annual because they have things they want to talk about, they have things they want to request, they have things they want to ask for a change in the IEP. Some parents don't want to hold it because they don't feel comfortable, they don't want to do it virtually. A lot of times team members aren't going to be there, so you're not going to have your whole IEP team there, and they might be happy with the way the IEP is right now. So it just depends on what your situation is and where you are with your child's IEP. Now, let's take the example of that you're happy and you don't really have any issues. You're not going to ask for anything different, and you don't care if you have your annual IEP. In that case, you can say, I'm good with extending my IEP date, and I'm okay with you opening the IEP on or before the day that it's due, and then we will have the meeting once we go back to school, and they can legally do that. And what they would do is just say, we contact the parent on this date, we open the meeting, and we're going to reconvene as soon as school's open. And so they've done their obligation to have the IEP by the annual timeline. So you know, they've stayed within their mandates for that. So that's what you can ask for. You don't have to hold your IEP meeting virtually if you don't want to. Now, let's say you do want to, because you have things you want to change, you have things you want to address, you have things you want to be documented in your IEP. then you must, if you haven't heard from them and they haven't reached out to you to schedule something, then you need to reach out to them and say, hey, my annual is coming up on this date. We need to get something scheduled for this. And you need to, ask for whatever things you want. Do you want your entire IEP team there? Are there certain people that you would be okay with being excused, but certain people that you would not be okay with being excused? Because say it's your speech and language pathologist, you want to change or ask them questions or change goals or whatever it may be, then you want to make sure I want my speech person there, because you don't want to just show up that day and then, oh, sorry, speech couldn't be here today. Because you know how that goes. They don't tell you prior to the meeting, right? So, they're supposed to always let you know this person, this team member, and this team member can't be there. And parent, here's the excusal form. Prior to the meeting, you should have that knowledge. If you don't, they violated one of your parent rights, because you should always know prior to the meeting. If that person's on the invitation, they should be at the meeting because they were on the invitation. And if they're not going to be at the meeting, they should be informing you prior to the meeting, saying, is it okay? Do you want to go forward or do you want to reschedule? Because this team member can't be there, and give you the opportunity to say, I think it'll be okay, I want to move forward, or nope, I want to reschedule because I need to have that person there. So you need to contact your district if they haven't scheduled your annual IEP, because they are mandated to go forward with the IEP. Now, for an amendment, any amendments that are coming up. So say you had an amendment coming up before school's closed because you had an assessment coming in, or you were going to reconvene in 2 months to talk about whatever, look at data collection, re-look at whatever you were doing in the middle of something that you were supposed to reconvene for an amendment, right? That's the same thing. It's the same situation. You can either say, I want my amendment's due, my IP said we're supposed to meet in 2 months, and that's now. So you need to contact them again and say, hey, I want to hold my amendment. So what the thing is that you guys need to just remember and think about is, this is just like if we're in school. The law is the same. So don't let them, give you the impression that, hey, all bets are off right now. We're in virtual land and we don't have to implement the IEP or stick to IEP mandates, because that's not true at all. Okay. So the last thing I want to impress upon you the most is document. Okay. Because if you don't keep a good paper trail and good evidence of the things that they didn't do, when you come back to your next IEP meeting, you're not going to remember. You're not going to have good legal evidence to show these are the services you didn't provide. These are the things you didn't do. They're in my child's IEP. Here's my journal, my diary. You should actually keep a daily diary of this day. This is what happened with my child's virtual learning plan. My child worked on this assignment for math that I got from the math teacher off of a website for a half hour. My child worked on this for language arts. My child met with their case carrier for a half hour at 12 o'clock to 12:30. My child had a meltdown for an hour between 1 and 2 because whatever. So in other words, now the parents have become the data collector, okay? Just like as if you were, say you're an ABA specialist, okay? You're taking data now. What's that going to do? It's going to show very strong paper trail and evidence, legal evidence, to show that when you go back, if they have violated implementing the IEP, you can ask for compensatory services for educational academic instruction or for your related services. Okay, so that's the most important point. Because if you don't have that written down and you're not, real specific with details and facts about what went on during this time, it's going to make it harder for you to ask for that. Let's see, what else did I want to tell you? Oh, so, another really good thing, this is a positive. This is kind of a positive that I see in this all. Because now that your child's home with you, and really you become the teacher, right? You become the speech and language pathologist, OT, service provider, behavioralist, pretty much everything, right? So, you know, and it all depends. Every situation's different. Some kids, they're just not going to let their mom do anything. They're just going to say, no, you're not my teacher and I'm not going to do it. Okay. Some parents, it's going to be okay. And parents are going to actually be able to get something out of their kids. Okay. So for those parents that are able to do that, this is a good opportunity for you to really check out your child's goals. Okay. Because if you look at a goal and you see a goal and you see your child doing already met that goal, then you're going to be like, hey, my child already met goal number 5. I don't know why we even have it on the IEP, because they're doing it with me at home. Because when did we ever have the opportunity to actually work on the entire IEP? You know, it's never happened before. So this is a good opportunity for you to really get to know your child's IEP very, very well in terms of their goals. Or you might see an area of need that they have that's not on the IEP at all. And you can go back when we're done, or if you have a virtual IEP meeting, and say, hey, I see this huge gap in my child's IEP. We need to develop a goal for this. Or I want an assessment in this area because I see a huge gap here after working with my child at home. So there's a lot of good information that can come out of this that you will be able to provide when you go back if you take good documentation and write things down and be checking your IEP and be kind of, you know, comparing as you're working with your child. Okay, you know, is this in my IEP? What does my IEP say about this as you're working with your child? It's a good way for you to kind of really know what's in your IEP and know where your child's present levels are, because you're working with them now. You know, when we go to an IEP meeting, we're listening to everybody else tell us what our child's present levels are because we don't know. We're not working with our child in those areas. Well, now you are. So you can check to see, is my child really there in that present level? Like it says in the IEP, check the present levels out and see if you agree with them. Okay. So most likely, I would say that most parents are going to be asking for some kind of compensatory services. If you keep good data collection, if you keep a good paper trail, and, you know, if I were you, I would be writing my case carrier an email every Friday. And I would be putting in that email, this week, my child missed 3 speech and language sessions. They did not receive any academic instruction. They did not receive whatever in a big fat list. And then that is a paper trail in emails. Because you're communicating with your case carrier, you're letting them know, you're giving them, you know, notice that, hey, I'm giving you notice, my child's IEP is not being implemented, and these are the things that aren't being done. And you could also put in there, you know, if you're having issues at home with your child, if you see an increase in behaviors, an escalation of non-compliance, they're off task, they're not completing their tasks. If it's different, if your child is always doing that and everybody knows that's their typical, you know, the way they work and their typical behavior and these are goals, then we all know that, right? But if it's something different that isn't your typical child, then that is good information to know, because the virtual learning, they didn't meet your child's needs while in this situation, because the IEP is still in place where they are required to meet your child's individual unique needs. That's IDEA. So, you know, they can't just waive it and say, you know, yes, I have to say, you know, we have to give everybody this, you know, the benefit of the doubt. Districts are trying to get it together. They're trying to figure it out, but it's been quite a while now. They should be figuring it out pretty well. Teachers should be more on top of things. Teachers should be communicating with parents more. Case carriers should be communicating with parents more. Things should be rolling along right now. And I know a lot of districts where it's not rolling along at all. And still pretty much nothing's being done, except for they're throwing a bunch of stuff at parents to do on their own, a bunch of information, a bunch of websites, a bunch of links where parents have to just try to make sense of it all, pick and choose what they think is most appropriate for their child, and try to teach their child on their own with no support, no training, no guidance, and that's about it. So I want to read you today. There was something that was sent out from COPA, the Council of Parent Attorneys and Advocates, that came out just today. I'm a member of the council, and it says, Secretary DeVos has sufficient flexibility to help states and districts under IDEA and Section 504 during this challenging time. No waivers under IDEA or Section 504 are needed. However, Congress must provide states with $12.5 billion in IDEA funding to ensure district school leaders, teachers, students, and families have tools for teaching and learning online and for meeting virtually. So they expect teachers to meet virtually with their kids, to provide funding to pay for telehealth related services. So I know some of my clients have told me, hey, they're denying telehealth related services. So that's why they're saying, hey, Congress, you need to give us funding so that the districts will pay for the telehealth related services, to promote collaborative approaches to adapting and modifying student support, and to find solutions to compensate for the gaps in services and support as a result of the outbreak and school closures. So that just encapsulates everything I just said, because they're saying we need to fund the districts more so they can fill in these gaps that are happening right now in most districts across the nation. Most districts across the nation are experiencing, just a real failure to implement the IEP, and parents are pretty much on their own. So I'd like to hear from so there's some new people here. If anyone that would like to share, what state you're from and what's happening in your state and what you're experiencing in your district. Does anybody want to share? Because it's really cool to hear from everybody what's happening with you. Anna,
Hi, how are you? I'm new, and I'm so glad that actually my husband showed me your video, and I'm in love with you. So that's awesome. Thank you. I'm getting so much information.
Good.
I'm from New Jersey.
Okay.
And my son is right now in 8th grade. He goes to charter school.
Okay.
And I feel like we're not getting maybe we didn't get any help at all. Okay. Not at all. He was just left with me and my husband on our own. Nothing was done. I was trying to contact teachers. I was calling principal, and I got mad because I was seeing that he's failing grades. They were going down. I was like, what I'm going to do? And I decided not to do anymore. I said, okay, I'm going to let him fail. So I have a case against them. But finally, they woke up and they start calling me saying that, oh, we're going to help him and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. So finally, we have a speech therapy going on and occupation therapy. But still, there's nothing from teachers.
Okay.
Like, there's no videos or no Zoom classes, maybe just to ask questions. But he gets the assignments and he gets time to finish it. And no help at all.
So they are giving you assignments, right? But that's it.
That's it.
Okay. Now, did you receive what's called a district learning plan from all of your teachers? Did you get like an email outlining, here's the plan for when he's at home? You didn't get that?
Not at all.
Okay. Well, you should have gotten that. All parents should have gotten a district learning plan, distance learning plan, and from each teacher. Okay, so you're telling me, what about your case carrier at the school site? They haven't contacted you either?
No, I was trying to email special teachers, because she's my friend. I developed a relationship with her, and she was basically saying that she's busy with work and everything is new, and I understand that. For
That's-
everybody, I do understand. So basically, for 1 month, I was trying to help as much as possible, but at the same time, I work from home and I'm extremely busy because I work from hospital.
Okay.
So, additional stress from work, and I see that
Sure.
he is just. I see him going from one room to another. He has problem with focusing.
Yes. Mhm.
Always he had that problem, but right now he doesn't have schedule. He's
Right.
overwhelmed with the work, and
Yes.
I feel like he's losing time.
Well, yeah,
And
they are.
he just got the letter from the high school that he got accepted, and very good high school. So it doesn't look like he is failing academically, but still he needs to continue learn. He needs to
Okay.
continue to get
Oh, yes.
good education.
So you heard when I talked about the documentation, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so you need to start doing that tomorrow.
Actually, I'm gonna follow with my emails, with my text messages. I'm gonna put together, and that's how I'm gonna do.
Yeah, and try to stay away from text messages because they're not very good evidence.
Okay.
So emails and
Emails,
and
okay.
then you taking your own data collection and your own documentation in a journal daily. This is what my child did today. This is how much work they worked for this between this time and this time on whatever academics they worked on. Talk
Okay.
about how he goes from room to room and he won't sit and do his work. That you are working and you can't sit next to him and give him one-on-one instruction because you're working. All that tells a story when you come back so that you can ask for compensatory services.
Actually, I got the phone call from a principal that we're gonna have a yearly evaluation IEP for. It's gonna be on next Friday, I believe so. So we're gonna go over. We're gonna have meeting, and it's gonna go
You're going to have your annual.
annual. Yes, we're gonna have.
Okay. Oh, well, all right. Well, that's good. So make sure that you, like I suggested, you write an email. If you want all your IEP team members there, I'm just giving you a warning because what they're doing is they're excusing team members. So you don't want to get there and just have, one teacher there and the principal. And that's it, right? You need to write an email and say, I want my whole IP team meeting there, my whole team there. I don't want to excuse anybody because it's your annual, right?
It is, and especially he's gonna leave the school.
Yes.
He's gonna go to different district schools, so that's so important.
Exactly.
To start the new school with a good base is IP because that's basically right. That's gonna count for next year until they have their own evaluation.
That's right. So now the evaluations, they've been waived unless is it already done? It's already completed and they're just going to report on it, or they're going to start it. Now they want you to sign it to start it.
Actually, we had, my husband is here. Do you remember what was it? We started doing this and we should meet in 30 days, I believe, but it was actually, that's what happened with coronavirus. We're supposed to come back. He's supposed to, I know what happened. He's supposed to be evaluated and then we should come together and just go over and put some strategy for him. So we got papers that I believe speech therapy was evaluated and now they're working on the occupation therapy for him.
Okay. All right.
So this meeting is going to be just to sign everything, but like first time probably I'm not going to sign it.
Yeah, no, don't sign right away. You should really sit down, read everything over very clearly, line per line, make sure it's what you want before you sign.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And I was actually talking to one of the teachers that he's a special teacher. I was telling him that we need to put something for Patrick for virtual learning because there is nothing established and we need to find a way to help him.
For what?
Virtual. For this.
Oh, the virtual. Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes. No, every day that he's not getting anything, that's a violation of implementing the IEP. So, and this is happening all over the nation. So, yeah, that's why your diary is your daily data collection, very important. Because this is what they're going to be dealing with when they come back. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Perfect. Thank you.
you're welcome.
That's my story.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Jennifer, did you want to add anything? What are you experiencing? Oh, you need to unmute. Yeah, good.
Yeah. So we've been fighting for this year. I'm in Massachusetts, so we've been fighting for
Okay.
the year that she's in now. We're still fighting it because we were trying to get her out of district, but the district doesn't want to put her out of district. So before all this happened, we had an IEE and neuropsych set up. She did all that, and we were supposed to have classroom observations done.
Uh-huh.
But the week before it was supposed to happen, we shut down for the coronavirus.
Right.
So now, this week.
Where do you want to take her out of district? To a non-public school?
Yeah, because so she's in a separate classroom. She's in second grade now, and she's not even at the level of the kids in the separate class with her. I found that out now because of all the stuff that we've had to do with the virtual learning.
Okay.
So they haven't even finished amending our goals from last year, and so it's just a big mess.
Yes.
So,
big mess.
it's a big mess, but luckily I've been keeping data. But her speech teacher told me last week that she wasn't going to be able to do individual pull-out sessions, that just 3 times a week for an hour they were going to
what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're changing services without parents agreeing to change services. They can't do that.
But my daughter can't even participate in the group because her attention is very fleeting. Right. So everything that she's doing, like they want her to do, she can't even do it because she's not at the same level of the kids. So now, do you have any suggestions on how we should approach that?
Okay, so you're speaking of speech services or also the classroom, or just in every environment?
Everything.
Okay. So what they need to be doing is accommodating or modifying so that she can do it. Okay. So when a child is below the ability to complete what they're doing in class, then they're required to accommodate it to your child's level so that they can access the education. That's what IDEA is. That's what least restrictive environment is, that they will, whatever the grade level is, they modify, or they either accommodate first, and if accommodations don't work, then modification brings it down to beneath grade level. Okay. And they need to do that so that she can access the grade level curriculum. So, if say that, let's take language arts, they're reading a story at grade level and your child's 3 years below grade level, then they need to make sure she can access that same story, but at a 3 years below that grade level, but she's accessing the same information at her level. That's modifying and accommodating the curriculum. That's what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay.
Yeah. And if they're not, so you need to say, first start with how do you know how many years below she is?
So she's her intellectual delay from her IE put her at a 1-year-old level. So she's not even at grade level for anything yet. Okay.
And how old is she?
She's 7.
Okay. So then they're going to be modifying. So, and you know what? I really doubt that she's at a 1-year-old level. Really? One?
She can't even write her name. But
a 1-year-old, you know what? Because when they can't, she has a speech deficit, right? And she has all these other deficits. So a lot of times that testing doesn't really reflect really what their levels are. I mean, we know, okay, she's very, very far behind, but a 1-year-old, that's pretty low. She's probably higher than that. But the testing that they give, the standardized tests they give, when kids don't understand language, when they can't read, and they can't talk very well, that's what happens. They test -1, right? But they're really not -1.
Oh, okay.
So see what I'm saying? That's why I take those standardized tests with a grain of salt, because it's like, okay, this is a baseline to start at, so that you can get goals, you can get services, and so and so. But I never really buy into that is really the facts and the truth of where my child is. Okay, so just think about that, because it's because she can't test. She can't test. She doesn't know what they're asking her to do. So
Right,
you really
and
don't know. Yeah. Okay. See what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Yeah. Because when she gets older, you'll see that change a little bit. Yeah, when she starts communicating better. And they need to, really step up with the communication, because she needs to have a form of communication. Is she nonverbal?
Semi-verbal. She can only communicate once needs. She did an AAC eval, but she didn't want the iPad. So we're using a PEC system now.
Okay, good. Well, they're starting with some kind of communication system.
Yeah.
All right, good. Yeah, because that's key. That's key to get her to communicate, and then the learning will begin. Yeah.
Okay, so one more question.
Sure.
So since this is the first week of their actual live virtual learning, is this like, because I've already been documenting everything from last week, but since this is official, should I really like button down now and start sending out those emails? Yeah.
Yes, I would. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Because then you have a really strong paper trail, and they're not going to be able to deny it when they come back.
Yeah. Oh, because my biggest fear is they're going to switch it and blame it on us. They're going to say, well, we didn't do enough for her while we were being the teachers, and blame her regression on us.
They can't.
No.
They can't.
Okay.
They might try, but
They will. I know they will.
they might try, but no, parents aren't teachers. Parents aren't educators, and they're not service providers.
Okay.
So it's their obligation. It's still their obligation. It's not yours. It's theirs.
Awesome. Thank
Okay.
you.
Does anyone else want to add anything and give us what's happening in your state with your child?
Hello, this is Anna's husband.
Can my
Hi.
husband talk?
Hello.
Because I'm working, that's why I'm hearing stuff.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm not sure how related that is, but I mean, to us, to parents of kids with that need special services, IEP, 504, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
From your experience, what's the fine balance for parent? Because there's like, it's black and white. Either you're one of those parents which allows to be pushed over by them, by the system or schools, whatever you want to call it, and you kind of basically sign off on anything that they suggest, and they like you for that, even though your child might be missing on something. And the second is where a parent goes into like a hostile territory, where you're being perceived as someone who's hostile, someone who they will always lawyer up, and just goes from like one extreme to another. So the question is how to run this where you have some sort of like a mid-compromise where they respect you, you're getting stuff without really going into every single time you request something, it goes into just like a complete, we got to check with our, legals aspect of that. And then you have to lawyer up, and that all costs money. So like,
Yes.
what's the fine balance?
Yes. So that's that's every parent's question. That's the problem. That's the problem with special education right there. You summed it up.
Yeah, it's like we've been trying. Like Patrick was, like our town is super bizarre. I mean, there's a public school district which is so mediocre. There's a charter school which is not really much better than the school district, but it's tiny. It's 300 kids K through 8. Then there's 3 private schools where the tuition is like $40,000 per kid per year, and there's three of them.
Yeah.
So there's wealthy people living in this town. So it goes
Right.
from one extreme to another.
Mhm.
But the point is that like we're really trying. I mean, I'm president of our PTO in a charter school, so I'm raising money for them. We're trying.
Yeah, that's
going
awesome.
above and beyond to be
Yep.
team players, but at the same time, I also feel that if you
Yep.
let them feel that they can push your, kind of,
Yep.
they can sell you stuff, they will sell you stuff.
Absolutely. So I have an answer for you. So it's parents. IDEA is the only law on the books that parents us laymen are responsible to enforce it. We're responsible to enforce IDEA and to oversee our child's IEP, because guess what? The school district isn't overseeing it, because IEPs are violated every day, thousands, probably millions of times a day across the nation, where they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And they're not held accountable unless parents hold them accountable. Now, how are we supposed to hold them accountable? Because parents have to learn IDEA, and they have to learn what their parent rights are. They have to learn what the district is obligated to provide or not provide. And that's what I do. I teach parents their rights. I teach them how to protect their rights. I teach them what their rights are, and I teach them how to implement their rights and how to hold the district accountable. And it's a learning process. You have to learn this stuff. So I have classes I teach. I have tons of information on my website. I have blogs. I have, I'm going to be opening a membership page, because I have different kinds of services that I offer. So I offer consultations. I offer a academy course, which is quite intensive, which I teach from beginning to end how to become an advocate for your child. And then I have things in between where I teach parents. Okay. So, and there's lots of advocates across the nation that provide these kinds of services. And this is what you have to seek out, because you have to educate yourself in order to become an advocate for your own child. And those are the parents that get the services. Those are the parents that get what they need for the child. The parents that don't educate themselves, their needs are not being met, and they're never going to learn. And that's the tragedy of special education. It's a broken system. And really, I'll tell you why it is that way, because it's not fully funded. Okay. There's 7 million kids on an IEP across the nation today, over 7 million kids, which is more than 15% of the general education population. That's how many kids have IEPs today. And it's not fully funded. And it never has been. When President Bush signed it into law in 1972 or 4, they said that day when he signed it, this is never going to work because it's never going to be fully funded. Until this day, it still hasn't been. And that's why it pits parents and educators against one another and puts us in this position to be adversarial when we're supposed to be a team. We're supposed to be an IEP team working for the benefit of the child. It's supposed to be a student-centered meeting where we are partners with them. We're all team members, and we, the parents, are an equal team member. We're not just a poof, who cares about what you say, parent? We're the educators. You go home and parent, and we'll do the educating. No, you have more power than they do, because IDEA gives you all the power. But parents don't know that, because they don't know what IDEA says. So that's why it's so important to learn what it does say.
True. But it's
not easy.
It's not easy. It's
I
the way
know.
they see it, like schools, school districts, all the IEP people. They do this day in, day out.
I know.
We've been, with our son. First, he was misdiagnosed. He had a 504. Then he had the diagnosis was fixed. Now he has an IEP. It's been going on for 4 or 5 years. So we're still learning. These people had been in the business for 20, 30, 40 years. So
Totally.
they
I know.
can run circles around us.
I totally understand. You're absolutely right. It's like, parents are expected to become, learn stuff that they went to school to learn and have degrees to learn. And now, but it's really not, we're not really learning education. We're learning our legal rights, which is a little bit different, but it is a huge amount of information. I mean, I've been doing this for 23 years, and I still learn every day about, case law and specific things. And, I mean, I know how to advocate and I know how to get what the child needs, but we'll never know everything. But parents can learn how to protect your rights. You can learn how to get what your child needs. You can learn to understand the IEP and the IEP process. That is possible. And that's why you have to you have to take one of these courses, or you have to study under an advocate, either in your area, or now we're virtual, so you can study under anybody. Yeah. And I have all those services. And like I said, lots of advocates across the nation have a course. They provide consultation services, and you just have to start learning. And that's the only way. You just have to resolve yourself to, I got to do it. Because for the rest of the time that your child's in school, you're going to be having IEP meetings, and this is your child's life we're talking about, their whole future. If they don't get an education, they're not going to get a competitive employment, and they're not going to be able to live independently. And that's pretty big. And that's the gravity of what we are tasked with in this situation. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, does anybody have any other questions? That's really kind of the update right now that's happening to this date. Like I said, things could change. So they still don't know, when actually, they have this date that they say it's going to be in May, but hopefully, let's see, or April 30th. But let's see if that really happens. Or no, we're staying out till the end of the school year. That was the old date. Yeah, we're staying out till, at least we are in California. When are you guys supposed to go back to school? Are you out for the whole rest of the year?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's
no.
The whole rest
I believe it's May 15 for us so far. But I told already my principal, if it's not safe, I'm not sending my child. We need to make safe for everybody.
Well, they're starting to open things now here. They're opening the parks and the beaches, and they're saying that they're going to start opening up things now. So we're in California, but I'm in San Diego, so it's not as bad here. But I know New York. Who knows about New York? I mean, I think they're pretty bad there. But
yeah, New Jersey is bad too. Still,
it is.
It's really bad.
Really?
Yeah. Yes, it's bad.
Yeah.
I would rather even keep my children home and just wait, because we don't want to make mistakes. I work in hospitals, so I see exactly what happens.
That's right. So is the hospital still really full?
Not very. We're seeing decreasing of admission, and we have more discharges, but still mortalities are very high.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We have to be careful. That's all. Social distancing.
Yep. So Bonnie, you didn't get to talk any. Bonnie's grandson, he goes to a non-public school. So this is the difference. A non-public school, because it's not a public school, they're providing what the public school should be providing. So he's getting all of his services, right, Bonnie? Or at least his speech. He's getting ABA. Tell us what he's getting.
He's getting OT once a week for 30 minutes, speech twice a week for 30 minutes, and ABA consultation. And they just started last week pulling him out to work with his one-on-one aide on his IEP goals for 30 minutes twice a day.
Mm-hmm. So
it's evolving. I mean, they have to modify it. They can't do it exactly like it would be in the classroom.
Of course.
Like, for instance, counting change.
Yeah.
He has to look at a picture and try to count it that way, when he's used to actually counting it backwards, if you know what I mean. Like she'll give him $1 and something costs 75 cents, and he has to give her the change back.
Sure.
She can't really do
but
that.
They're adapting to it. They're accommodating for virtual.
Yeah. And I'm sure it'll even change again once they realize that we can tweak this and tweak that to make it more productive for him.
Yeah. See?
Mhm.
So it is possible to
Yeah.
do it
It
virtually.
And they modified the schedule a bit so that they're not interjecting a lot of the exercises that he was doing in the yoga. So, so they streamlined it a little bit, and so they were able to cut off a half hour so that all the kids don't get so antsy and restless by 1 o'clock. They're ready to leave, so
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah. That's really awesome.
Mhm.
And then, is the teacher providing academic instruction, like classes, teaching classes?
Yes, they actually teach. They do counting, they do reading, they do math.
Wow.
Everything, yeah, all the subjects that he would.
How long? How long? Oh yeah, you told me it's all day. It's from 9 to 1 or something like that.
9 to 1. Mhm.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
Monday through Friday, 9 to 1.
Monday through Friday, 9 to 1. He's getting virtual schooling, you guys,
Yes,
with all his related services.
right.
See, it is possible.
It is possible. It is a tremendous effort for the parents to do that, and
Yes.
you have to know that you can't always leave the room or do. So you have to adapt. You have to be flexible yourself and plan all your activities for after school instead of what you were used to while they were in class away from you.
Of course. Yeah. It's all been thrown on parents to, be the one-on-one aid.
Right, because you have to say, okay, Joey, pay attention. The teacher just asked you a question. It's your turn to answer. That kind of thing.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. But I like to hear that from you because it tells us that it's possible
It
and
is
that the districts can do it if they wanted to do it.
Mhm.
But, one of the issues is, you guys, is that the teachers union is allowing the teachers not to do it. Because the
That's
teachers
correct.
unions are saying, you don't have to provide virtual learning teachers. You don't have to get on and teach a class because it's not mandated. There's not a law that says you have to do that, teachers.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a controversy between school districts saying, hey, we have to implement the IEP, and the teachers union saying, no, we don't. This is unprecedented. This has never happened before. There's nothing that says we have to provide virtual academic instruction. So
I have two other grandchildren that are in the general population, and what they're doing with them in the same district that we are, and what they're doing with them, they'll just give them an assignment to go to a website and complete that assignment and just show it to them. Say, here I did it.
that's what most of them are doing.
Yes.
So
that's what-
they're not helping them. So my son and his wife have to figure it out to help them figure out what they're asking for and to help them figure it out. Yeah.
That's right. Yes. Or the teachers are saying, okay, I have office hours from 12 to 2 on Wednesday. If you want to talk to me or ask me questions, you can ask me then.
Mhm.
And so that's it. But there's no communication between the teacher and the kid. No instruction, no teaching.
Mhm.
It's just they give them a big list of stuff to pick from, and the kid can either do it or not do it. Doesn't
Right.
really matter.
It's not mandatory, and they tell them it's not mandatory.
Yep, it's not mandatory for the kids to do it. It's voluntary, and it's voluntary for teachers to teach.
Mhm.
And so that's going to be a big mess when we go back because IDEA is still enforced and in place.
I'm just wondering what they're going to be doing with all the high school kids and their diplomas, but that doesn't pertain to me. But I just thought about that.
Yeah, I know. I think they're just going to, because of the grade thing that they decided, that grades will remain the same, but they can only go up. So for those kiddos that had low grades, say, and they might be at risk of not graduating, they would have to bring their grade up. So they'd have to do some work so they can bring their grade up to a passing grade, then they're just gonna graduate them because grades are remaining the same.
Right.
They're just gonna push them through and graduate them. That's what they're gonna do.
That's pretty sad.
And the poor kids, they're not gonna get a graduation, ceremony, or they're not gonna get a graduation night.
Mhm.
It's very sad for those kiddos. Their whole life they're going to be going, yeah, we graduated during the coronavirus.
And we didn't have to work for it.
Can you imagine? Oh my gosh, those were kids.
Yeah.
And what about their pictures? I guess they'll have to go take their pictures when it's all over after the fact.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Well, you guys.
I'm sorry, my son, when they were taking pictures for graduation for 8th grade, he got flu. So yesterday was the makeup time, and so he doesn't have picture. Said, "Mommy, I'm not gonna exist in the yearbook." I said, "Don't worry, that's we're gonna make it. I'm gonna put actually glue it."
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So.
Oh. Well, I just did a Facebook Live yesterday, you guys. That's on my Facebook page if you want to go check it out, because I took a bunch of information that I've been listening to all the mental health websites and researching on what they're saying, to do, how to keep yourself, in a good mindset, and how to talk to your kids about the coronavirus. I give some really good tips on that. If you want to check it out on my Advocates for Angels page. And if you guys aren't a member, I have a private membership Facebook group. It's called Special Education Parent Empowerment Network. I think it's on the email. Did you guys get an email from me, or did you find this on Facebook? How did you find this event, the town hall?
On Facebook, I saw the link to join the town meeting.
Cool. Okay.
Facebook.
Yeah. So if you want it, you can join my private group though, because in that private group, I communicate with them more, and we do more things like this in the private group. It's called Special Education Parent Empowerment Network. And I'm going to be offering a membership page soon, where we'll be doing calls like this where you can ask me questions about your child's IEP. So, okay, you guys, well, thanks for coming. And I'm going to be doing this every Wednesday night. So hope to see you guys next week.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, good night.
Thank you.
Stay well.
Nice talking to you. Thanks.
Thanks.